Welcome to the Real Estate Jam Session. All right, residential and commercial agents, today's for you. If you've been struggling a little bit over the past couple of years, I've got a great guest coming on. So, Patrick Precourt, he's written a book called Wake Up and Live the Life That You Love, and he's going to give us some tips and tricks and habits that we need to put in place to really find our path to success. So, now make sure you check out the video and give us a like. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Joe Killinger. I've been a real estate entrepreneur for over 20 years, and I use this YouTube channel to bring people like Patrick on and really give us the tips and tricks so we can find success. And so, again, make sure you check out the video, and if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe. Patrick, thank you for coming on the show today. I really, I was reading your biography and you said something, your results are a reflection of your habits. And I love that. I love that because in the real estate industry, good habits, getting back to fundamentals is a path that we need to be headed down right now. And, I know we were talking earlier, but I'm talking to commercial real estate brokers and residential real estate brokers around the country, and we see a change coming, right? And it's going to be going back to the fundamentals, because if you haven't made money in real estate the last 10 or so years, 10, 12 years, you're definitely going to struggle going ahead. And so I think you're right. Finding those habits is the key.
Yeah. And I think you'll agree with this, Joe. So you've been in this business for a long time. I've been around this for a really long time, but there's a lot of people, the majority of people that are in business in real estate, residential, commercial right now, the majority have been in it 10 years or less.
Yeah.
Which means the habits that they've learned in that time, right? What got them here is not going to get them to where they want to go. Things are changing, and an unwillingness to change with it is going to create a really, really quick obsolescence in who we are and the roles that we play in this game. Like, it's happening fast.
I'm a firm believer, talking to the managers and the broker owners around the country, we're sitting there talking about what training are you doing? And it seems like most of them are doing training, but the commonality between all of them was, what I'm teaching is our agents are utilizing about 20% of it now. And those are in-person classes. I really broke it down in person. And then a lot of people were doing it on Zoom. And, we did it on Zoom for our Commercial Brokers International here in Los Angeles during the pandemic. From 12 to 1 every day, we did a Zoom class. And we thought we were doing a great thing, but it turns out that wasn't the best way to go about it. But how do you think is me as a manager or an owner of a company, how do we get more results out of our team? What do we need to do?
Yeah, big question, but let's dive into it.
Yeah.
And let me just go back one sec to what you had heard, the question you asked a moment ago about habits and results, right?
Yep.
So if we can appreciate that all the results that all of us get in our lives, I don't care if it's our health or our wealth or relationships, the impact we make, anything, all of our results are just a reflection of our habits. It's no more complex than that. So now there's a real simple formula, right? That your knowledge or your expertise, I call it your capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Plus your consistent action, which is your habits, your behavior, equals your results. Your capacity plus your action equals your results. So if you don't like your results or you want a different result, there's only two pieces you get to play with, right? Your capacity, your knowledge, your expertise, or the application of it. And more times than not, it's here. It's in the space of application. It's doing what you already know how to do. So let's just tuck that away over here and just say I want to focus on that part, right? On the action part, because here, in the world of technology, Joe, what to do and how to do it is so readily available on the internet at any given time. You just type in a few words and all the information pours into you. I own a gym. Like, well, what good is a gym to people today when everything they need is online? And it's 100% true as it relates to what to do and how to do it.
Right.
I'm like an at-home mechanic. I like work on my old Land Rovers, and I call myself Google certified because all I do is pull up on my phone what to do and I can do it, right? the what to do, the how to do that's not the missing part. So now let's go right at your question here, because you guys provide that as
Yep.
business owners, as managers, as leaders in your organization. You try to provide all the tools and resources to allow your team to be successful. And the question is, why aren't they all seeing the exact same level of success if you're providing them all the same resources? That's where we're at, right? That's
Yep.
okay. Good question. So let's start with this, right? Number one, they have to desire the result. So I'm going to make the assumption, just for the sake of the rest of this conversation, that everybody in the game, on the team, in the tribe, wants the result of the effort. Okay. Because if that's not there, if somebody's just mailing it in or just showing up because they got it or something like that, then everything else I'm going to say we just won't apply. It's just,
we see that too.
Right. So I want to weed them out for a second. Because those that's a different problem solution. They just shouldn't be there. You shouldn't, they shouldn't be taking up the resources, and you shouldn't be having to spend the resources. But pull them out and let's focus on the other. So what we have in common is you're giving them the resources and the expertise, the knowledge of what to do and how to do, and they want the result, and therefore the result is likely good for them and is desired. So the gap we're trying to close is, why isn't there a connection between the actual, the ability to do it and the doing it? I'll tell you what it's not, Joe, and this is just what I found, and I see this in our gym, which is kind of my human laboratory. It's not because people are lazy or lack work ethic. Oftentimes, like, it's easy to point to that. But I've found, generally speaking, people are not afraid to work. They're not afraid because we get such a good feeling out of being productive and reaping the fruits of our rewards, right? So it's not a lack of work ethic or being lazy, although sometimes it can appear that way because of the actions not being taken. That's usually not the cause. It's more of a symptom, if you will. Does that make sense when I position it that way?
Yep, absolutely.
What it then goes down to, say, well, what precedes action? So follow me on this, right? I think everybody will get a lot out of this part, right? So a result itself is preceded by the actions that produce a result. Preceding the actions is a decision we make, right? Yep. The decision, though, is preceded by a whole bunch of other stuff. Now, you and I off camera, we're bringing up the idea of habits, right?
Yeah.
Well, if our habits are in alignment with our results, the results will happen, which means that if we're not getting a result, we put that out here, all we have to do is work backwards and look at our actions, our behaviors, and see what's out of alignment for producing that result. And we will, if we're not producing the result, it means we are in fact not taking the actions, the behavior to produce the result. So this makes it really, really simple. We say, okay, well, I find myself procrastinating, or I'm distracted, or I'm just, maybe it's fear, maybe I'm afraid to take action. Here's something I think that will make a big difference trying to answer this question, right? When we don't do what we know how to do and we want the result, when we're not taking that action, it's fundamentally because somewhere deep down inside, we don't wholly believe that the action will produce the results that we want.
Right.
So there's a lack of belief in the work it's going to take to produce the rewards that we want.
Do you think that's confidence? Do you think it comes from confidence?
So confidence and belief kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're both anchored in results, right? Because once you've done something and you've succeeded at it, then you're confident you can do it again. And you also believe you can do it again. You see how one produces the other. So you're 100% correct there. Those two are glued together. Confidence and belief go hand in hand. Yeah. And that brings up a big question, right? So if you're being taught this new stuff to do, and you don't see the connection. You have faith, but you don't believe yet that it produces the results. You have no reason to necessarily believe it. How do you build that bridge between where you're at and where you want to go? And unfortunately, this is what we do, right? We're like, okay, I got to change my behavior. And human psychology is such that we always believe that change goes from good to worse, which means that something's not going to be good. And then that brings in all the fear. What if I lose? What if I don't succeed? What if I get judged along the way? And all of this negative talk piles in.
Yeah, we've all been there, right?
Yeah, and then we're like, well, this kind of sucks. So the easiest way to get away from suck is let's distract ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's find something else to focus on or something else to keep busy with, right? And we end up going through 40-hour work week being busy and produce nothing.
Yeah, no production. If we tell our agents, and I can't speak to any other managers in the business, but we tell our agents to start by knowing your market better than your competition. If you're a multifamily broker in West LA, then you better know every property that's on the market, how long it's been on the market, price per square feet, price per door, everything. And that I'm finding really helps them. Having that information and knowing that better than most is giving some confidence.
Yeah, it's one of the core building blocks of confidence, preparation.
Yeah. Preparation's the key.
You have that to lean on,
Yeah.
No different than, Joe, if one of your agents had to go speak on stage in front of, say, 5,000 people audience, and they've never spoken on stage before, right? That could cripple some people, quite frankly.
Me for one, I could not do it.
Up until, Joe, I said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put together your presentation. I'm going to get you to memorize your presentation. Then we're going to practice this thing every day for the next 30 days, again and again and again and again. So now you can at least be confident that you can deliver a competent presentation.
Yeah.
Now you have something to anchor on. And that's exactly what you're telling your agents. Create an anchor. And that's what preparation does for us. Say, listen, I understand, but I know this market better than anybody else. I can at least hold my ground here, right?
Yeah.
That's fantastic advice right there.
Yeah, I think it's good. We even tell them when you're cold calling, get in a mirror at night. I go, this is embarrassing, but get in a mirror, practice your cold calling, watch your face, how are you saying it? And, I'm finding that helps, but it's difficult, but we also tell them to measure at the end of every day, every week, every month, and every year, production. Look at your production at the end of every day. What can I do better tomorrow? What did I not do too well today? And how can I be more efficient tomorrow? And that's been a big push for us. That helped a lot. Not with everybody, but a lot of our agents. And I'm hearing that from a lot of other brokers as well.
Yeah, no doubt. So measuring where you can actually see.
Yeah.
So this ties into a bit of inspiration, how we can self-inspire. When we can see that our actions are moving us towards a desired result, we inherently are inspired to take more of that same action. So what you're saying is, Pat, measure the progress so you can see tangibly that you are moving towards your desired result. That's how those pieces tie together in our psychology. But go back to cold calling for a second and watch how powerful the knowing versus not knowing is, the certainty versus uncertainty. How we create doubt. If I said to you, let's just say, Joe, you're the agent and I need you to start just production, right? And I said, listen, Joe, I know for a fact, if you outbound, let's call it 200 calls, cold calls a day, do it for an entire week. At the end of the day, at the end of the week, you're going to create a nice big fat check for yourself. I know that, Joe, because that's our numbers, 1,000 outbound calls, and you're going to have a fantastic client. Those are our numbers, Joe. Well, guess what? Day one, you're on the phone, you're all motivated. I got you pumped up, and you got a lot of no's and a lot of people yelling at you and some hangups and some swears, right? Day two, you're slightly less
every day,
right? You're doing it. Day three, you can barely pick up the darn phone, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't yet believe that the action is going to produce the exact result that we talk about. Now, watch if we flip-flop this, right? And I said, Joe, we're going to change it next week. Instead of you just being an agent and doing these calls, I'm going to hire you. You're now an employee. Your job this week is to make 200 calls a day for 5 days in a row. And at the end of the week, I'm going to give you a check for 15 grand. Each day, you'll have no problem at all going through those 200 calls. You won't even care if they get sweared at, that they swear at you, because it's just one call closer. When you get to 1,000 calls, you get a nice check. And you know it because that's our agreement. There's certainty in that relationship.
Yep.
Can you see the difference?
Oh, yeah.
One believes that the actions will produce the results, and the other one lacks that type of certainty, and therefore they waver in the execution.
Yeah.
Now, all I'm doing right now is highlighting the kind of like the snag in our human psychology that gets in our way of doing what we got to do, closing the gap between where we're at and our potential, what we're capable of. Then we'll go through this, and then we'll get into how to solve that. Okay.
Yeah. Do you think having structure on a daily basis, setting your day up like 8:30 to 10:30, I'll be doing cold calls, 10:30 to 11:30, I'll be doing warm calls, and then 1 to 3 answering emails and returning phone calls. Do you set up some structure like that?
1,000 times over. It should be in all areas of our life, whether it be in the health, wealth, relationships, impact. Doesn't matter what part of your life you're talking about. We have to have routines. Routines produce results. Routines create repeated behavior, produces your habits, produces your results. They all roll in together, right? We have too many distractions in our lives, right, to not operate within structure. And of course, as agents or as entrepreneurs, that's one of the things we struggle with most. When we're in a working environment and someone is telling us what to do and how to do and when to do it, right? It's easier. We just do what we're told.
Just do the task.
But when we're the boss of us, it's really difficult not to operate at that level in that capacity. So 100% to what you're saying. Now, here's our vulnerability, right? So play along with me here. And I said, hey, Joe, do you think that the way you feel affects the way you think? You'd say.
You mean physically feel? Absolutely.
Yeah, your emotions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your body, your emotions. Yeah. It's the way you feel affects the way you think. You'd say, yeah.
Yeah.
And does the way you think affect your decision making?
Yep. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Decision making, responsible for your action taking.
Yep.
And your actions, your results. So
Yep.
now, stay with me here. Big point for the audience. The way we feel has a direct connection to the results we get. Now, one last thing. Does anybody ever get triggered, an emotion brought on by something external to us?
Email, not me, but probably everybody.
Voicemail.
Everybody does.
Social media, ever. Does it ever stop?
No.
So now we get triggered uncontrollably from the outside in. When we get triggered, that affects the way we feel. The way we feel affects the way we think affects our decisions, our actions, our results. Now, something outside of us, outside of our control, is to determine our results. Can we count on being successful that way?
Most people, yes.
Well, no, maybe I'm asking the question wrong. Can you allow random outside input?
Oh, random? No, yeah. That's going to fog the goal.
No, you'll constantly be reacting to the way you feel.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so critical to have routines that no matter how you feel, you have to operate here. You have to go in this order. You have to block out this time. I was just making that point. Otherwise, we'll get nothing done.
Oh, I agree. Because there's so much comes in. I mean, emails, just all day, it just doesn't stop. Text messages, voicemail. I started and I was doing cold calling. I didn't have that, mostly because the internet was just in its infancy stages, right? But I didn't have that. But if I was, now it's hard. You've got to shut it off so you're not getting pinged constantly. And you're right. It will fog your goal. There'll be too much coming at you that you're not going to be able to see through it all.
Yeah, and all that little spot we just spoke of, that falls in that area of what they call emotional intelligence, EQ, right? And that's being aware of your emotions and then managing your emotions so that Joe, you send me a nasty text message, it gets under my skin, and now I got to get on the phone with a client. Am I going to let that bad negative energy just right through that phone onto my client, or am I going to say stop? and interrupt that process, plant a new thought, and every thought has already got a pre-wired emotion in our subconscious. Plant a new thought in that pulls up that emotion into our conscious, becomes a new feeling, right? So that I can talk to this client positive, inspired as a leader, instead of beaten up and knocked down by you and that text message I just got, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's, and I think, and this is something I always get kickback on, especially from the newer agents, is they just want to get a deal done, right? So when they get a call or an email, they want to respond to it right away. And so I tell them, listen, you've got to train your clients that you're going to respond to calls. If it's 10:30 to 11:30 every day, you'll return calls then, and you'll return from emails from 1:30 to 2:30. You train them in the beginning, you're not going to have that as a problem. That will help a lot. Now, some of them are not going to care. They're still going to contact you, but it's training your clients is also a good way.
And you're right, they will still contact you because let's be honest, some clients are just little thoughtless there, but you have set an expectation and they're not expecting you to pick up when you're contacting them outside that range. They want you to, but in not doing so, you'll not be letting that expectation down. And I think that's a point you're making, right? Whereas if you're that person who picks up anytime and all the time, and then now you don't pick up, you've let them down because you created that kind of communication, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a firm believer in structure, and it seems you are as well. And I just think if you truly want to get to success, or wealth, you've got to get there with this structure, because and start when you're new, right? When you're new, you want to start it then, because if you do it right, you're going to be busy, and that structure is already in play. You've already got it there. And I think that'll help a lot.
The structure, you started out asking a question where we're talking about habits, and habits are a reflection of behavior, right?
Yep.
Or results are a reflection of habits. So structure allows you to create those habits. And here's, just so we're clear on what we're talking about, like habit versus behavior. There's behavior is an action. Repeated behavior consistently can produce a habit. A habit is when the body finally knows better than the mind how to execute and does not need the critical mind to execute the task at hand, which means it can't be distracted by the critical mind. It's like, Joe, you get up in the morning, you're still groggy, you have a cup of coffee in your hand, you're talking on the phone, you're walking downstairs, but you're not missing a step. You're not thinking about lifting up your foot, extending it out, putting it down, timing the next one. It's a pretty complicated operation getting downstairs, right?
Yeah.
Ask the child
coffee.
Walk, right? But you're drinking your coffee and talking on a phone and thinking about 15 other things right now, and you're not tripping. That's because the habit is solid, and that habit produces the result of you getting up and downstairs safely. Think about looking at your business, looking at the result, picking the 3 or 4 or 5 habits we need to produce that result, right? And how sound an outcome you can count on if you just build the habits. And then that into
look at Kobe Bryant. How many shots did he go make every day?
Right? Non-stop.
Yeah, I think it was 1,000 or something like that every day. And but you have to get to that level in the real estate industry. You got to be willing to, there's going to be sacrifices in the beginning. You're going to have to do it, especially going forward with the fundamentals. You're not going to be able to just get a listing and put it out there and there's going to be a buyer for it now. Now you're going to have to really know the market. You're going to have to go out and market it and find the right buyer for it or tenant for it. And it's going to be a different ballgame. And that's why what you're talking about is so critical.
Now, you may not like me saying this, but I got to say it, right?
Yeah.
I'm just going to share with agents listening to this right now, right? Here's your opportunity. Most agents will not do the level of work, Joe, that you're talking about.
Right.
They simply won't. So if you're the agent that wants the success, that's looking at this as genuinely as a career, and you want the dependability and of a paycheck out of it month over month over month, guess what? The opportunity exists for you. All you have to do, and you're kind of bringing up, is follow these basics, right? Mm-hmm. There's certain habits that have got to be created. The habits are created through structure and routine every single day. It's a commitment to those routines that will produce the habits. The end results become inevitable. and most won't do it. And there lies the opportunity. Like in the work, there's always opportunity, right?
Yep. Yeah, you know what? I was it Gary Vaynerchuk. We used to watch some of his stuff. Still do once in a while. I wouldn't say I stopped looking, but everybody goes, "You're giving your competition all this inside information. Why would you do that?" He goes, "Because 95% of them won't do it."
Do a thing. Doesn't
He
matter.
goes, "The 5% that do, I need that competition." He goes, "That does nothing but help our business." And he's right on. Most of the people that are in real estate won't do the work that it takes to get to that level. They love when they see this big agent and the success, but they have to understand what that person went through to get there. It didn't happen overnight.
No. Do you think, Joe, let me ask you a question, because if the answer is yes, we can spend some time. Do you think there's any fear in the process that is a limiting belief for agents as they step forward into their careers?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different, and it depends. It's a hard industry. It's a hard industry to get started in, right? You're on commission. So you've got to go out and, kill what eat what you kill. It's a hard business. And so I think the mindset, you've got to really come into it like, I'm going to go be the best. Otherwise, if you don't come into it with that mindset, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that is because I found with a lot of, so I look at realtors as individual business owners,
Yep.
Entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I found with business owner entrepreneurs, as they start out, there's always this fear that they're not enough or they need more knowledge, expertise, tools, resources, and that gets in the way of them taking the consistent action that they got to take. They always believe that they need more over here, and that holds them back, right, from doing the next step. And I'll share something with you, which I found in my personal life, actually, and I taught myself to lean into this, and I'm sure you'll get this too.
Well, I've seen it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a bit of knowledge that we all always need, this next level, this next piece of knowledge that we need, but it can only be gotten by us taking the action and learning in doing so and getting the feedback from our actions. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
There's so much a teacher can teach you. There's only so much you can get from a book or a podcast or a mentor or a broker or a fellow agent. The stuff that we think we need the most is not available out there. It's available now through our execution of what we've been taught to do. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
I call this a discovery process. In the martial arts space, we do a lot of work in the jiu-jitsu space, and I share this with new practitioners all the time. So you know what? You can spend an entire year studying the best practitioners in the world, the highest level black belts, study everything they've ever been taught and learn themselves, memorize all of the different moves, know each step of every move, and come on the mats in our gym, and I can take a 1 week white belt. They've only been in our gym for 1 week, but in our training classes, and that 1 week white belt will smoke you on the mats.
Really?
Have learned more through their experience of actually doing it than you learning and becoming book smart will ever apply. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
you've got to do it. We see newer agents, they put these blocks up. Hey, I need this new piece of technology. This is going to help me produce more. Okay, let's take a look at it. We get it. Production doesn't bump, but it comes, that's not every case, but, I'm talking to different brokers. Mostly that's what happens is it comes from, let me find a way to make this easier. And it's not the case in our business. You've got to do the basics, build your business, email program, stay in front of everybody, and just keep at it. Follow up, make a lead, follow up, and be patient.
Yeah. And I think, would you agree, particularly as a realtor in this space, that the amount of shots you take matter a lot more than the accuracy of the shot, right?
Yeah.
So like, if you have a big pond you're fishing in, you want to put one bobber out there, right?
Yeah.
Or you want to put like 100 bobbers out there, right? And don't worry about the 99 that catch nothing. It doesn't matter.
Right.
because you caught the one that you're going after in the first place, right?
Yeah.
That's how I see this whole space here. We've got to go often. We've got to take a lot of shots, and each and every one we're going to learn a little feedback on if it doesn't work out, but it's still going to keep us moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. I mean, I get it with the cold calling and, and I'm sure you've done it too. It's hard to hear that no, and it really beats you down every day. But I tell you that one, okay, let's meet is worth every one of those calls. And then when you get your first listing and then you get first closing or first tenant in place and you get your first check, they're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. I really had it in my head. This was going to be a lot easier to do, but maybe it took a little longer. But if I just stick with what I know now, it's all going to come together. I had an agent that was with us a few years ago, and he was in our office last week. And, I kept, when he was here, he grew up in the area, high school, college, everything. And I said, why are you not going after your sphere of influence, all your family, friends, high school, college, everybody? Because I just don't like to ask for the business. I'm like, it's a big mistake. I mean, just start putting out to them, create an email program, get it out to them, let them know exactly where you're at, reach out, have a conversation, do warm calls during the day. And so I hadn't seen him for, it's actually been about a year and a half. He said, I wished I listened to you earlier. This is on Friday. He goes, 70% of my business comes from my sphere of influence. He goes, I would have made it so much sooner. These alumni in high school and college, or it kind of seems like a headache, right? You go out and give them money and show up at these parties, but they can be a great asset for you.
Yeah, that's a perfect example, right, of a belief system that's not in alignment with the action and the result.
Yeah.
His initial belief was that he's being a pest, he's being salesy, that whatever conjured up in his mind, right? And through taking a few simple steps and actions, he started to alter that belief, and now he believes something totally different, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's in a similar situation as that. You can't, and I've just found this to be true in all humans, right? We can't outperform what we believe to be true. So
Yeah.
this is less about how you're doing what you're doing, right? And more about you overcoming the limiting beliefs in between. Because the truth of that scenario is that person that does need to rent or lease or sell or buy, right, is going to find someone anyways. And if you feel you're great and will serve them 1,000%, then they can only get less than you. So you're doing them a disservice by not having the guts to step up and say, I can help you. I'm willing to help you. Right?
Yeah.
That's a different belief, right? And it's an honest belief too, right?
That, honestly, Patrick, that's the first thing when I started real estate. I was in Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, actually. Going to college, 18, parted my hair to the side, got some reading glasses just so I looked a little bit older, and tried to look as old as I could. But the guy that owned the company said to me, he goes, listen, you brought over that because you got to start cold calling, right? And I was going to work on farms and ranches because I grew up on a farm in Nebraska, so I knew all about it. And he goes, he threw the phone book down. He goes, you see these people? He goes, do you believe you're a good person? I said, yeah. He goes, do you think you're going to treat them fair? And yeah, I said, yeah, absolutely. He goes, okay, well, there's a lot of agents that won't. He goes, so you deserve that, to call these people and serve them properly. And so I was like, okay, I guess I was so scared, 18, never done a cold call in my life, but he was right. I just got on and had a conversation with somebody, and his big thing was don't try and close the deal. Just get to know these people. He goes, just get to know them. So when you call them back, they know who you are. And, that's the advice that I've lived with since I was 18 years old.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what we're talking about then, Joe, is frankly, understanding our beliefs that get in our way of our results. And this is a little different than the whole guru world will tell you about, because everybody's, especially in like the last 5 years, everybody's about mindset, and they're like, mindset will fix everything. If you change your mindset, like everything, and vision boards and mantras and all that kind of stuff. But the truth is, right, you can't change your mindset. Your mind is set, and it's a reflection. It's an afterthought, lag indicator of what you believe to be true. And it was Henry Ford, I don't know the exact quote, but it's something like, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, either way, you're right.
You're right. Yeah.
Well, that mindset is a reflection of the belief, not the other way around. So you can't just change your mind about that. you have to believe something different. And there's a process to believing something different. And it, you know, as you know, like beliefs are early on, they're kind of built into our system, because when we're children, we can't choose our beliefs. They're put into us by adults, right? As we get older, we get a little more selective. As we get, you know, past our 30s and 40s and 50s, we get not just selective, we get protective. Protective meaning now we take our beliefs that are our self-image, and we wrap it with an ego because it's who we are, right?
Yeah.
And we're just holding our ground, man. We're done. Right? Which is great on beliefs that serve us. It's a challenge on those that don't, right?
Right.
But we don't ever want to be wrong or anything like that. So we just protect what we believe to be true. And at 54 years old, I found that I won't say every day, but every week, I'm challenging another belief that worked good to get me this far, Joe, but it will not get me to where I want to go. My mind that got me up till now is fantastic, but all it did was get me here, which means it won't get me there. This same mind has got to give something up and make room for something new. And to your listeners here, I ask you to suggest or to adopt that kind of psychology right there. That whatever got you here, great. But if you have something else you want to get done, something bigger, something you want to accomplish, a career you want to grow, everything that got you here, you've got to make space for something new to come in. And a lot of it is anchored in our belief system. Now, a little different though, we don't just adopt beliefs freely. And if I said, hey, Joe, dial 200 times a day, 5 days a week, and you'll earn a $15,000 check, I would never ask you just to believe that. But what I might do is say, hey, Joe, can I get you to just dial 200 a day? And I don't care what happens. I just want to know, can you commit to that exercise? So the exercise is not about buying or selling or anything like that. It's about dialing 200 times a day for 5 days. Can you just get through can you commit to an exercise like that? Show me you're a little disciplined, right? And the answer, you'd say yes, right? See, now we don't have to believe what's going to become of it because we're focused on something different, just our execution. The belief will come in the end or along the way. We have to earn the right to believe what we're looking for here by getting a new result. But sometimes we set these goals or aspirations way up in the clouds and they're so high up there, we can't even see them. We don't believe they're true, so we can't take the actions to get up to them. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I do in our recruiting meetings, we talk to agents, you know, the common answer used to be, I want to make $1 million a year. And I'm like, okay, do you understand what it's going to take you to get to that? And when you start breaking it down, you can see their eyes kind of roll back and they're like, okay, so let's scale that back. You know, let's scale that back to a realistic number. And, you know, because we don't really do the math, right? We don't think about the expenses. And there's a lot of them in our business. And, you know, it's something, you know, but I think it's communication too. You got to I'm talking to all these brilliant managers of residential and commercial brokerage offices around the country. And, you know, our biggest thing is I've got these people that aren't performing. And I'm like, well, are you talking to them? They go, well, no, they don't really come to me. I'm like, well, maybe you need to go have a conversation with them, and vice versa. The agents that are struggling should go talk to their managers, go have that conversation. We're in this business to help each other out, right? Because everybody makes money that way, you know, so communication.
So let's, I mean, if you want, let's talk about that role right there, that manager role, because it is a pivotal point, especially for someone new in a business, right? So to me, management should be synonymous with leadership, right?
Yeah.
This is in the way I see it, at least in our entrepreneurial world. And leaders who provide leadership, really, well, their job is to elevate those that they lead, create environments conducive to their success. And our job as a leader is measured by the success of those that we lead. That's how we measure how good a job that we did, right? Mm-hmm. So to the managers that say, hey, they're not coming to me. Well, to your point, there's a breach in communication. If they knew for certain by coming to you, their results would be enhanced. If they knew that would happen, right, they'd come to you. If they knew it would be easier if they came to you, if they knew it would take less time to get there, if they came to you, they would come to you, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I asked, I said, okay, I didn't have that problem with broker owners, because brokers are like, okay, I got to get you making money. The managers that are getting a salary and a stipend, I saw that more there, and not in all of them. I'm not saying in all of them, but it was more of a case in that level, at that level.
Sure, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just talking somewhat generically as to anyone who's really in that leadership role. Like, you can't just lean in and say, they're not coming to me. No, that's not your role.
Yeah. I was a little shocked when I heard that one. I'm like, well, and a lot of them on the residential side, well, they don't come in the office. Well, book a Zoom call with them, or book a coffee with them in the office. I said, you just got to be proactive. This is a proactive business.
Yeah.
You got to go make it happen. If you get reactionary in this business, as you know, you're behind the 8 ball.
Especially today, right? Right now, that's
more, especially going forward. I mean, it's with interest rates going up, it's going to be a situation where there's going to be a lot of opportunity here for the good ones. The good agents are going to really excel right now, and because that's who everybody's going to want to work with. So, a lot of opportunity, I think. All right, can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Yeah, so they're shorter ebooks, and the one that I'm sharing with everybody here, it's called Live Big, right? And it's just a way to take on life so that we live a very fulfilled version of it. And fulfillment is one of those words that's thrown around, right? Fulfillment is not just making money, and it's not just having houses and cars and stuff like that. And I could give you example after example, Joe, of people I've worked with one-on-one that were really, really unfulfilled, yet they had all of that stuff that they more than they could spend 10 lifetimes over, right? There's a difference between achievement and fulfillment. Achievement that's the goal that you just mentioned. I want to make $1 million. That's a measurable. That's a dollar. That's a dollar figure. But money has no meaning to it. It means nothing until you as an individual, or me as an individual, attach meaning to it, right? And for everybody, it means something a little different. To someone who is a recluse on their own private island that is completely off the grid, money means nothing. Doesn't matter how much you give them. It's worth as much as the firewood to them, because they're just going to burn it and then create heat, right? It means something different to everybody. Financial independence means something different to everybody. Financial stability means something different. And when we're setting goals, right, such as money, great for measuring, right? But it's important that we ask ourselves the next question. What is the result of the result? What is the outcome of achieving that goal? And that's where we find meaning. And the importance of that is that's what keeps us centered and focused on our journey. As you know, right, there's oftentimes we come up with challenging situations, right? Or maybe nobody else will even know if we make the right decision or the wrong decision, but there is a right and a wrong, right? It may put more money in our pocket, but may pull us out of why we're doing this in the first place, right? So when you ask yourself, what is the result of the result? That gives us a set of guardrails to stay on when we're running hard as entrepreneurs and as business owners and as agents and brokers, right? So that when the environments are challenging, they're what I call an insane or elevated emotional environment, right? We don't make poor decisions. We don't drive off the rails. We stay on track here. That makes sense when I explain it that way?
Oh, yeah. And that comes, the guardrails, the structure, it's key. It's key to your success. Because if you're just willy-nilly doing this, doing that every few minutes, you're just not gonna move forward.
Yeah, no doubt. So the book I left behind for you guys that I gave you that link to is called Live Big, and it just goes through the 10 different components of our life. And it's just, it's a good read. It gives you a guideline to kind of go down this journey on, right? But a big part of it is understanding that difference between, living a fulfilled life and an achieved life. You can achieve everything you ever wanted and be ruthlessly unfulfilled. However, it's almost impossible to be fulfilled in life and not to achieve everything you ever needed to achieve. Those two are married together. last part I'll say on this, right? When you ask yourself, what is the result of the result? What is the result of that money, financial independence, financial security, providing for your family? What you'll end up with is how it makes you feel. And it's that feeling that we need as fuel. We got to bring that all the way back to the front here, because when the going gets tough or we find ourselves not wanting to do the hard work or shying away from a tough decision or discussion or avoiding and procrastinating and distracting, we've got to be able to tap into that energy, that fuel, and use that to push us through to the next part. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Not
I've lived it.
yeah. And if it doesn't mean enough to you, you won't do it. It's just how we're wired.
Yeah. Yeah. It's complete believe it. I'm going to put the link to your book below on the video. And so we'll all be able to find it. And Patrick, thank you very much for this. Such great advice.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. You know, I say this a lot of last conversation I had for everybody that's listening to this in like real time, right? Eyes up, ears forward, chin down. We can't keep our heads buried right now. Everything's changing quickly, Joe, like you and I are talking about, right? We've got to see what's coming on the horizon and do not get caught sleeping right now.
Yeah. You know, my dad used to say, and I keep using this, and I guess maybe I'm turning in my father, is he goes, Joe, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Shut up and listen. He goes, because they'll tell you. And you know, I was a kid. I don't know. I did something wrong, and he's just listen. He goes, you'll hear what you need to hear, and you can respond to it. He goes, it's a very powerful tool. But well, Patrick, thank you very much. I'm going to put your contact information down below, and I'm going to put the book contact down below so they can go get it. And appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you.
Been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And then for those of you watching, make sure you check out the video. Give us a like if you haven't done so. Make sure you subscribe. I'll see you in a few days.